Hello, it's Friday the 20th of March 2026. The time as always is 10 past tomorrow, and right now I'm going to talk about a hypothetical scenario that I think all of you will be able to connect with. So the situation is, it's the end of a busy day, you are knackered, you've been going since 7 a.m, you haven't stopped, and then someone asks you, what have you got done today? And you start listing things off. I've written emails, I've been in 4 meetings, I've given an update to my manager on that particular project, I've written a briefing document for another team, I've reviewed someone else's work, peer review, I've chased a decision that should have been made last week, and through all of that you were busy the entire day. There is no question about that, but also when you look at that list of things that you've achieved, honestly, the question is how much of that was the actual work that you're good at and that you love and that your KPIs of your role are built around? How much of all of that stuff was really like the thinking and the judgment and the expertise that you are employed for? And how much of it was just moving information and context between people? Interestingly, Microsoft's latest work trend index just found that the average employee spends 57% of their time communicating. Asana, their research puts it at about 60% also, and they call it work about work. The average knowledge worker now sits through over 11 hours of meetings per week, and that number has tripled since 2020. I couldn't believe that when I read it, tripled. So the majority of what we call work for most people is coordination. It's not the work itself. I think that will resonate, whether like consciously or just intuitively, with almost everyone. Now, I follow a brilliant writer called Nate Jones, who runs a blog called Nate's Substack. Highly recommend that you follow him. Recently, he gave this phenomenon a name, and I think the name is actually brilliant. He calls it the coordination tax of organizations. Once you see and understand this coordination tax, or at least for me, once I had it explained overtly, you start to see it everywhere, right? It's this, it's that briefing document that you wrote so that your manager could update the board of directors. That's not actually the work, that's just a translation tool from the work's happening here, translate it for someone over there. You also see it in all of the Monday morning team stand-ups where everyone shares updates that could have actually been an email synchronization. It's also that kind of report that you build because someone in another department can't access the same data system that you can, so you have to make that bridge and give the data and give the context to other humans because we can't naturally just connect and share that context. And so this is so infused into what we do that we actually call it the job, we call it our jobs, but really when you look at it, especially through the AI lens, it's just noise. But we've been doing it for so long that it's become invisible and we just accept that that's part of the job. Okay, so there's another writer that I want to add into the mix here, and I'll give links to all of these resources that I'm referencing, but you may have heard me talk before about Azim Azhar. This week he wrote about something which on the surface looks disconnected, but I think it actually joins together, and so I want to join them. He wrote about this thing that I actually think about a lot. He talked about what's the difference with AI for cognitive offloading versus cognitive surrender. So cognitive offloading is offloading that busy work, the coordination tax, the translating of context and data for other people. AI can do that beautifully, and that type of work, that busy work, that's cognitive offloading. That's fine, and that's smart, and that's a power play with AI. But what we want to stay away from is this AI surrender, where we surrender the actual thinking behind the work over to AI. And 10 past tomorrow, all of us, we're all about making sure that as many of us don't cross that line into cognitive surrender. I think the coordination tax that Nate Jones is describing, though, is exactly the kind of work that AI does so beautifully and that we should be offloading, right? I want to call this out. Why did I write this particular essay now? It's because the tools to compress the coordination tax that Nate is talking about, they're not coming. They're not like future tools. They're here, and they're improving on this really steep curve. So every time you see like a major new AI tool, model, agent released, you see all the AI benchmarks for that release. For those people and organizations who are now using these tools to their full capabilities, particularly over the last 6 months, those capabilities have shifted from just prompting AI back and forth in a chatbot, that like conversational mode of AI where you're involved in every decision and every task, to something really different. Now with these agents, like true agents, you can give AI real work, like hours or days of human work, and you get back really useful results in like tens of minutes. The agents will go away, they'll work for 30, 40, 60 minutes and bring you back really powerful, useful work. So what's an example of this coordination tax being compressed? Most of you will know the company Duolingo. Duolingo, they're an education company. The story I want you to know is it took them 12 years to build their first 100 language courses using all human systems. Then, after going AI first, just before the start of last year, they built 148 new courses in a single year. So 12 years to build their first 100 language courses, 148 new courses in a single year once they really went AI first. How did that affect their humans? They phased out contractors. That part's real, but they have kept every single full-time employee. Their CEO says that these people are now 4 to 5 times more productive. 4 to 5. The reason is pretty obvious when, like through the lens of this essay, that coordination layer, coordination tax, all of the briefing, the reviewing, managing handoffs between the contractors and the internal teams, managing hands-off between teams, all of that has been compressed and done by AI. And so now the people with the deep knowledge of the products, and in their case, that's the education, their pedagogy, how they create courses, those people have become more valuable. The bridges between those people are no longer as necessary because AI is handling that, right? And so this is the part that does get a bit uncomfortable, and I'm not going to really dodge this part. Nate Jones's numbers that he talks about in his essay, he says that in a typical 200-person company, somewhere between 80 to 120 of those people, so around like 40, 50, 60% of most companies, people exist to perform work that is just coordinating information and coordinating context between humans and doing the handoffs, doing the work about work, and mainly doing that for other people. And that is super confronting. It will be for a lot of people. I think anyone who pretends that that number doesn't hit really hard is probably not being that honest. But this is why I'm trying to tie together these two different essays that I've been reading and what I've been thinking about, because both like Nate Jones and Azim Azhar, they land pretty much in the same place, that, and I agree with it, is that if AI is going to compress and basically remove all of that coordination tax and compress it right down, then what is left is like the most interesting and the most valuable and the most human work. And the people that can do that work will rise to the top. The people that can use AI to hand off the coordination tax and then bring the human layer that's left, those are the people in the sweet spot, and those are the organizations in the sweet spot from here. So when you boil that down, every forecast that you've seen that says AI will automate X amount of tasks, that's a really like common heuristic that is out there at the moment. AI will automate X amount of a accountant's tasks, and the implication is, well, because it can do that, that's the significance for that particular role. But actually, it's probably measuring the wrong thing, because That's measuring it against an organizational structure that's full of this coordination tax, and that's actually about to change entirely. So when that changes, all of the roles change, and then actually you're measuring a completely different thing because the organization's got a different shape. The reason that most of those tasks existed in the first place will have evaporated. So what's real and what's left? It's like, who's got the vision? Who's got the real thinking work? Who can give the creative direction? Who can give the genuine care in customer relationships? Do the strategic judgment under like genuine uncertainty? The kind of work that requires accumulated experience and skill and wisdom and empathy and decision-making skills. You can't fake any of that stuff, and you can't delegate that stuff to either AI or either to people who haven't lived all of it, right? So the coordination tax has been burying all of that work, basically for history. It took really smart and creative and ambitious people, and it like buried them under work that actually oftentimes, you know, it frustrates people because they're doing all this coordination tax work, and that's not what got them into their role or their industry in the first place. So I think this is kind of, for me, one of the most important points of this essay. Let's use AI constantly, right? I do, but let's fiercely protect the space where our original ideas form before they are shaped, right? And so Azim Azhar talks about this. He goes on walks. He uses blank paper to write down his initial ideas with a real pen. And the way he describes it, his point is that the generative AI, it's only really as useful as that core world model and decades or years of skill and experience and wisdom and like lived experience that you can inject into it, right? That's the stuff. Like, yes, we can cognitively offload a lot of stuff to AI, but we can't cognitively surrender and not put all of that human stuff into the system and into our workflows. So I actually think that's really good news and optimistic and positive news, is that the work on the other side of this, once this is really like truly wide scale, that the coordination tax is shrunk and removed from our organization, the work on the other side will be like, in many ways, it'll be harder or at least more challenging. Because you can't just hide behind like busy work when that's all been absorbed. But what will be left will be the really rewarding and satisfying and meaningful work that all of us actually want to do in the first place, right? So this is all playing out in real time in front of us. There are no like rules or established playbooks here. Every person and organization is trying to figure this out, and I promise you the ones who are really setting a precedent for everyone else, and they're also drawing way ahead of their competition at an exponential rate. So yes, I do see workplace disruption happening as a result of AI. In this context that I'm describing, it's that coordination tax being compressed and removed. And yes, I expect a lot more of it. It will change. It is changing roles and organizations, but also the work on the other side of this transition, I believe, will be more human, more rewarding, more satisfying, not less. But we're going to need to be willing to transition there. I'd love to hear your thoughts, your experiences, your reflections on any of these themes. Are you living them? What does it feel like for you? Please drop them in my LinkedIn page. Also, if you feel like it, put them below this video in the comments section. See you all next week.